Hi guys, this is Ricardo Calderon. This time I'm joined by Mr. Vince Maloney, formerly member of the Bee Gees. Hi Vince, how are you?
Hi, I'm pretty good, Ricardo. Pretty good. No
Thank you
complaint.
for being on my show, on my podcast. And at last, I have you on my program. And thank you ever so much once again for being so nice and kind to be talking with me now. I have some questions to ask you. And I should mention that a good friend of mine from Spain, who's a diehard fan of the Bee Gees, his name is Jesus Garcia. He has passed on to me some questions from him, and I would like to start asking you his first question.
Sure.
What guitar do you use? Do you use a Gibson or any other kind of guitar?
At the moment, I have a Gibson and a Stratocaster, a Fender, and depending on what sound I want, I use the appropriate guitar. I've
When you
always
were
had
with the Bee Gees, which one did you use?
the Bee Gees. I had Gibson, Les Paul Gibson, but I also had quite a few other guitars. I had a Gibson SG, Fender Telecaster, few different ones I had.
All right, thank you. What was your musical reference and what influenced you to become a guitarist and a composer?
I mean, probably sex. Probably. When I was a young kid, I didn't have any idea about music because all we had back when I was a kid, we had a little radio and no big stereo. I suppose rich people had stereo, but so we had a little radio and we heard music through that. But I was never really interested in music. And how as it became about, I went to do some guitar lessons in this place where I lived, in the township where I lived. And I didn't really like it. I went along, they weren't teaching you to play, they were teaching you to play, what do they call it? Slide guitar, but not blues slide, like Hawaiian slide guitar. And I went along on it, but I didn't learn anything at all. And when I came home, they gave me a free guitar. So I put it in the corner. And my mother told me that it stayed there for a whole year. And I didn't pick it up. I didn't do anything with it at all. And, but all of a sudden, my mother said, one day you came home, you got the guitar and you started to play, and you'd come home straight from school, you'd go in. And I'm sure it was the fact that all these guys were getting up and all the screaming girls were screaming at them. And, you know, they were like the Beatles and like the Bee Gees were, you know, hundreds of young women. And so it sort of was, that was I thought, well, sex, drugs and rock and roll, you know. And of course, at the time, I didn't know very much at all. But anyway, I think, but I really loved the guitar. I loved it. The more I learned, the more I learned. And the more people I got to hear about it, I was very influenced by quite a few jazz guitar players. And
From Australia or
from America. Yeah.
From America.
A whole bunch of them. I'm just not quite sure I can remember their names now. Wes Montgomery was one. Stefan Grappelli. Stefan Grappelli was a violin player who played with a guitar player with only a couple of fingers. I can't think of his name. But and then I got to sort of lead into the other question, the influences. Were jazz players. Tal Farlow was one. I just loved Tal Farlow. And I loved the sound of their guitars. And so there was a whole bunch of people. The Shadows were an enormous influence upon not only me, but many, many people. And so many.
So Before you joined the Bee Gees in 1960, in late 1966, early 1967, you had other bands. I understand from my readings that you formed another band called the Aztecs.
Yeah, the Aztecs were really popular band, very, very popular.
Did you form it? Did you form that band?
Yeah, I did. It started before then, like the band before the Aztecs was called the Vibratones.
The
And
Vibratones, I see.
yeah, and we were very influenced by surf music, which was really popular, all coming from America, of course, but in England they don't surf. Well, at that time they didn't. But so we used to play a lot of surf music, a lot of instrumentals. And then when we just, a couple of the guys in the band were not really into it. They liked it. It was like fun for the weekend, but then they had to go to work on Monday. Whereas I didn't want to go to work on Monday. I had to go to work on Monday, but I didn't want to go home to play.
You didn't want to, huh?
Hey?
You didn't want to. You had to, but you didn't want to. That's what I hear from you now. So, did you like the Beach Boys back then? I think.
Oh, the Beach Boys were
great, right?
fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a whole lot of, you know, surf music coming out of America. I just can't remember all the names of the stuff. You know, there was instrumentals. Yeah, the Beach Boys, of course, were huge.
And did any of the Aztecs? Who was the lead singer? Did you
Well,
sing? Or did you
actually,
only play the guitar?
it was Billy Thorpe, but it wasn't in the beginning. When, as I was saying, like, yeah, the Vibratones, a couple of the guys in the band were not into it like the bass player and I were. So the band disbanded, and then we got a drummer, got a singer, and another guitar player. And I got us the gig at Surf City, which was the huge complex in Sydney, where many bands played. And so I got us a gig there, and we played there for a little while. And and Billy Thorpe came along. He was he was the manager of Surf City. He was doing work with Billy. He sent Billy to New Zealand to do some shows and what have you. I'm not quite sure what they were. But when he came back, he said to me that he wanted Billy to be the singer in our band. And I told him that we couldn't, you know, we had already had a singer, you know. So he sort of told me, well, you know, it's nice having you here, but you know, I'll look for another band. And so anyway, I spoke to the singer and Johnny Noble. I spoke to Johnny, and John was fortunately he didn't want to come traveling all the time. We were making hardly any money, and if we were making anything, you know, like we were really struggling, like all musicians did.
Must have been hard. Must have been hard.
Really, a lot of fun though. You know, you met a lot of people. You know,
Right.
and I had no problem with it, but I wanted more money so I could buy more clothes. I could buy another, you know, whatever. And so anyway, John was going to go back to Newcastle, where he comes from, and sing in all the area around up there. So he left. Billy joined the band. Our rhythm guitar player that we had in the band was a guy called Valentine Jones. Valentine was a really great guitar player, but he was a jazz player. He didn't play rock and roll. He couldn't play rock and roll. We tried him, but he couldn't do it.
He didn't like it, maybe.
Hey?
He didn't like it, maybe, I said.
Oh, he didn't like it. He wasn't a rock and roller. He didn't like rock and roll. He wanted to have these fancy chords, you know, and we didn't want that. So we spoke to Valentine, and he was replaced with a guy who just come to Australia, an Englishman from Norfolk, a guy called, gosh, his name, bloody hell. Can't think of it at the moment. It'll come to me. I should come straight to my head. I guess he's a good friend of mine, but I can't get it. Anyway, he joined the band and he became the rhythm guitar player, and so that was Tony Barber was his name. Is
And
his name.
these groups that you're talking about now were based in Australia, right?
Who?
The group that you're talking about,
Yeah,
the people.
That's right. That's correct. Yes.
Were in Australia, in
Yeah.
Melbourne, in Brisbane,
In Sydney.
in Sydney.
We played everywhere, all over. We played in Melbourne and in Brisbane and all over the place we played.
Are you originally from Sydney? Were you born in Sydney?
I was born in Sydney, yes.
All right. Is that the capital of Australia, right?
No, Canberra. Canberra.
Oh, yeah. I think I must go and check my my school books so I can find out where the capital of Australia is. Anyways, okay. Tell me. Before joining the Bee Gees, I understand in 1967. When you joined the Bee Gees, I mean, what inspired you to write the song "Such a Shame"? And one more thing about "Such a Shame," you were the lead vocal on "Such a Shame." Did Morris Gibb did the other voice?
I think so. Yes. I think he did the harmony.
Only him.
I'm pretty sure it was only him. Yeah.
And when you wrote the song "Such a Shame," did you tell the brothers or Barry, "I want to sing it," or did they tell you you can sing it because it's your song?
No. The Bee Gees at that time, we were like a band, you know. Forget about the years in Australia when the Bee Gees were the young kids, you know. And we were like a, you know, Colin's opinion on something was just as important as Barry's or Morris or Rollins. So we were all and Barry, yeah, we were packed together and it was really good. And we worked as a team and we really enjoyed it, you know. But Barry did say he really liked the song and he said, "Can I sing it?" And I said, "No, you can't." And,
Where did he go? What did he say? Did he laugh?
I more than likely laughed, I would think. There was no argument over it. But looking back on it, I wish I had said, "Yeah, go for it. You know, do it. You sing it." And I was the only person on any of the albums up to that time where the singer was not Barry, Robert, or Morris. You know, so I don't know, but it turned out really well. I think that the track.
Yeah, it's a great track. It's a great song.
Yeah, the song is the song itself. The lyrics about the breakup of the band, the breakup of the Bee Gees. It sort of it was towards the end, you know, and yeah.
And may I ask you, why didn't you write all the songs for the Bee Gees while you were a Bee Gee member?
I would have. Had we carried on, I had a lot of ideas, and but there was no like you know, there was no thing about you can't write any songs. We do all the writing. I could write a song and play it to the guys, and if they liked it, we would record it. But at that time, we were. It's hard to explain, but there was 2 years, 1967 till the end of 1969, and till the beginning of '69, and those 2 years were just packed with things that we did. We recorded 149 songs. 149 songs we recorded in 2 years.
I heard about that.
Unbelievable. We toured through America. We toured in England. We toured in Germany. We were doing interviews, and it was just so much stuff, and that we were doing. Had we thinned it out a bit and let it go longer, I'm certain that I would have written more songs, and
Right.
they would come out. But the fact that we were so packed over that period of 2 years, it just became too much. It was everything was like getting out of hand. It was getting crazy because we were so popular, and we were kids, we were children. And of course, when we came from Australia, or even though Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs had been an enormous success in Australia, it was nothing compared to coming to Europe, to England, to the rest of the world, So when we were in first class in an airplane, I'd never been in an airplane, let alone first class, So
And then you hit America and you appear on the Ed Sullivan Show, right?
that's right, yeah. Yeah, and he says our name too.
Did you do many songs there? Do you remember how many songs you played as the Bee Gees on that show, the Ed Sullivan Show?
Well, there was talk that there was 2 songs. I
see.
don't remember, to be honest.
Maybe one is words.
We did words, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Videos on YouTube. It's got millions of views, and most of the Bee Gees hits from the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, are there up there on YouTube, right? And tell me about Odessa. What do you think about the Odessa album? Were you still the guitarist on Odessa?
Only on, I think, certainly 3 songs, but possibly 4. I am not really quite sure about the 4th one. But I was on Marleypert Drive, Whisper Whisper, and some other one. I can't remember what the other one is. Do Your Best. So I can't remember what it was. But those songs were recorded at the end of 1969, at the end of 1968.
Oh.
And so we had we had 67 and 68. But right at the end of 68, before I left the band, I recorded those songs. And then from there, the rest of the songs were done by the Gibb brothers and Colin.
And tell me, with the album's idea, Be Is First, horizontal, did you use the Gibson guitar on those albums?
The Gibson guitar?
Yeah, did you?
Every one would have been a Gibson, yes.
All right.
Every would have been a Gibson, would have been. That was my favorite guitar, and yeah.
Even until now, do you still use the Gibson?
Yes, I've been recording here, and we're working on some new material, which I'm going to Los Angeles in October to record. We've got a bunch of stuff. We've got about 4 or 5 songs to do.
And your tuning, is your tuning quite different from Barry's?
Mine is not normal tuning, and what a normal person does, but an abnormal person, no, he's not abnormal. But he tunes his guitar like many people tune it. A lot of slide guitar players tune it. So when he strokes the guitar without his hands on the fretboard, he'll play a D, more than likely a D chord.
An open D.
He'll more than likely play it. Some people tune it to different tunings, but so his finger, he just used, like I put all the fingers to get the notes. So he just needs like basically one finger, which he goes up, and providing everything is in a major key. But yes, to answer your question, he does change it. He does that.
Thank you. As a solo musician, solo singer, you put out a song called "Women."
That's right.
Did that take place a couple of years ago, or is that an old song?
No, it is an old song, but not of mine. It was recorded a couple of years ago in Los Angeles, and that was a song. It was an Australian group called the Easy Beats. I don't know whether, yeah. And a huge fan of the Easy Beats, and every song that they put out was just fantastic. And I always loved women, and so it's so that's what we did.
And how many EPs have you put out as a solo artist, Vince?
Not many EPs. I gave up. I didn't do anything regarding recording. I did. No, I did. I did a whole bunch of stuff. I did a lot of recordings to make backtracks. So, because in Australia, I wanted to do all these smaller venues. Yeah. So like pubs and little clubs, because it's great. You've got the intimacy of the people. So I did a lot of recording there, but I didn't release very much. No.
Have you ever done a Jumbo as a cover version?
Never done it. Ever since being in the Bee Gees. That was the last time I played Jumbo.
Have you ever thought about doing that?
Well, possibly.
All right.
What is possibly happening at the moment? What we're discussing it at the moment. So is that the band that I'm a member of in Los Angeles is called the Tall Poppy Syndrome. Do you know of the Tall Poppy Syndrome?
I haven't heard about that group.
You have?
I look it up. I'll get info. Is it on YouTube? Do you have any songs, video clips on YouTube?
There should be. If you go into I haven't been in it before a while, but if you go into my website, there's a link there, and it'll have Tall Poppy Syndrome, and if you just click that link, we had out a song last Christmas. Yeah, I think it was last Christmas. I'm not quite
I'll look it up. I'll check it out later today, perhaps tomorrow, and so this is I'm really quite nervous talking to you, man, because there are many questions that I have reviewed before doing this that and I sort of tend to forget things now, but
we can do it again. Now we got the Zoom.
Yeah, it's wow. What questions to ask you? I would like to ask you, what is your most favorite Bee Gees song? And tell me your opinion as a musician, as an artist. Which do you think is the best Bee Gees song ever, from your time or from the whole?
From my time? Yeah, that's a hard question. Very hard question. There's so many. Pardon?
To Love Somebody, maybe.
To Love Somebody was a great song, no doubt about it.
You did one version of it.
What?
You did a version of To Love Somebody.
Yeah, it's an old one. It should have been taken down. It's not good. We've got a much better version. That was really old, and we've got to get rid of them. But there's so many great songs, from that period. So much so that we're in the process at the moment of putting a tour together called Bee Gee's First, and we're going to play all the songs on Bee Gee's first album, together with some songs that I recorded. We'll do Women, and we'll do a few other songs as well. But it's going to be all based on Bee Gee's First, the album, which has gone down as a classic. And so there's a bunch of songs on there that I really, really like. To Love Somebody's great. I love Whisper Whisper, which is on Odessa. There's heaps of them.
What about Message to You? I gotta get a message to you. It's also a great, one of the biggest songs of time.
Beautiful. Yeah, massive hit. A good song.
Another song that I have always liked is Massachusetts. And
Massachusetts, right? Well,
Massachusetts. I remember seeing you on that show, and there's a clip where you and Vince and the three Gibb brothers are doing in Massachusetts. And you seem to be in heaven and enjoying the moment while playing to Massachusetts.
Yeah, well, Massachusetts was our first major break, our first number one. We had out a, New York mining disaster set the I can't think of the word there, but it set it up, and then we did Massachusetts, which went just, people loved it.
I think New York mining disaster opened the door.
Yeah, open the door. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. And yeah, it certainly did. A lot of people thought it was the Beatles because of these sort of harmonies. And that started off, but Massachusetts was the one that put us in the number one slot. And as I said earlier on, like we come from Australia, which was like it could have been on another planet. It was so far away. And so we were kids, we were just we were kids. We didn't know nothing about it.
Actually, yeah. Teenagers enjoying fame at such an early age.
Huge, massive, yeah. And Barry was, they'd done a lot of work as the Bee Gees in clubs, and they were pretty well versed in how to do it, and they did it really good. They knew what they were doing, and they did it really, really fantastic. And for them, I mean, Morris and Robin are this high, and Barry up here, and
I love the song, the earnest of being George. One song.
Yeah. That's a great song.
Your guitar playing is awesome, man. And what effect did you make? Did you do there, or did Barry or did the brother let you do all the things that you did on the guitar, or did you just say, I want to do this, play this way or that way?
No, there was not that I can remember that. I mean, we talked, all of us, talked of us. The Barry and Morris and Robin would play the song on acoustic guitar, so we could hear, Colin and I could hear what the song was. And then we worked it out, we sat down and we figured out Morris. He said, I'll do that. Morris is very creative, and a lot of the work, it should be, it was the work of Morris's work. And, but we'd sit down and talk about it, So when I wanted to play the guitar, which was an overdub from memory, was because I doubled it. And nobody said anything about it. Nobody said, that was too rock and roll, or it's too this, or it's too that, Everybody, we just went ahead with it and did it. We got along really well. It was a really the only thing that was slightly out of tune about halfway through was Robin and I had a little odd thing, because I liked the blues.
Yeah.
And Robin didn't, right? So at that time,
Robin didn't.
No, he didn't. Not at that time.
What did he like? The pills.
He what?
The pills. Because there's an old saying, there's a story there that Barry was Moore was the booze, Barry was the
smoker.
Yeah, that thing, and Robin was the pills.
Something yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of us, some of us rather, didn't know that Robin was taking any pills, but he had a pretty bad time with them, He'd take them to get high, and then he'd take some to come down, Poor guy, and he was a terrible thing, dreadful thing. So that together with all the problems that eventuated, mainly due to overwork, too much work. We would have been better if they had said, you have a break for 6 months, don't do anything. And but there was an enormous amount of work, And of course, there was also the difficulty, which when you have two singers in a band, they all want to sing,
Yeah.
have their share of songs. And Robin felt that Barry, sorry, was getting more songs than Robin, you know.
Yeah.
Which, in a way, I think, truthfully, was the truth. But the Robin, I mean, he had, you know, some fantastic songs, you know, but Barry had a more of a popular voice, and so he.
But Robin's voice was unique, actually.
Yeah, well, absolutely, and I mean, it was all to do with Robert Stigwood. I don't know whether he spoke with them. Well, he would have, but I was not involved in any of that at all. It was between them.
Mm-hmm.
But there were problems.
Yes. Right. That was a brother thing.
Yeah, that was the brother thing. Rob Morris was never he never did anything wrong. Morris was always the man in the middle. He was the one that sorted them out, you know. Even on the last album they put out, which was This Is Where I Come In, there's a track.
Yeah, Morris does that song, and the man in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the truth.
In the middle. I want to ask you also, did you ever see Robin play any instrument in the recording studio?
He tinkled a bit on the piano.
But did he actually play it?
He knew a few chords, but Morris was a much better pianist, a much better player of keyboards. So
right.
He did the majority, if not all, the keyboard work on our albums.
I see. And something else. And who played the acoustic guitar? Was it Barry?
It's a toss-up. Barry played acoustic guitar. Yeah.
In your days.
Yeah, Barry was on every track, because he set the feel. He had the feel. He knew how the feel went. He'd lay it on us, and then we pick it up on there. But he always played. But also sometimes I played acoustic together with Barry, and sometimes Morris played acoustic guitar as well.
So that was the way you rehearsed before going to the studio. When you created the songs, when the Bee Gees did the songs, you sit in a circle, each one with a guitar, and you strum the guitars, and then they sang to the songs, I guess. Was that the way of making us?
No, it wasn't like that at all. It was we everything was done in the studio.
Oh,
there was no going to Barry's home and sitting around the living room playing. None of that. It was all done in the studio. So what had happened was, you see, what happened when they lived in Australia, they lived together. So with mum and dad, right? And then, so when they'd wake up in the morning, they'd pick up the guitar and they'd start singing, right? Because they were there all together every day, every month, every year, right? So when they went to England, they became separated for the first time in a long time.
Right.
You know, so they went all to their different houses or flats, whatever was happening at the beginning, you know, and so they never came together. Mainly only in the studio. So they'd come in, and Barry would have an idea, and Morris would have an idea, and Robin would have an idea, and Colin and I used to play chess out in the outer room, and they'd say, "We'll be with you in a minute. We'll work out what we're doing, right?" So they'd work out between the three of them what song they were going to do, and maybe they put a couple of his song together with a bit of his song, and they did it. Then they'd call us in. They'd say, "Right, we got it." So they come in and he'd play the song. Barry and the guys would play the song. So then we'd start to work out our parts, our pieces for it, and what we were going to do, and that's how it worked. Yeah.
That was the way everything worked.
It worked really well, because Barry, I mean, they'd written hundreds and hundreds of songs, you know, hundreds of songs.
Quite prolific, actually. Yeah.
They could pick up a piece of paper and a pencil and write a song just like that, you know.
Wow.
And so, unbelievable. And but when they came, as I say, when they broke up in the family thing, wasn't a nasty breakup. It was just that they got on with their life. They got older. They weren't young kids that wanted to.
Breakups are always nasty. I think if we talk about different relationships, breakups are always nasty. But and then makeups are always nice. When you make up with someone, and that's the nicest thing that can ever happen to a person.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
They didn't get to it though. Unfortunately, it didn't happen because there was something between Barry and Robin. It just didn't work. So when Morris died, and Barry and Robin did some shows together,
Yeah.
But there was always something there that was not good.
It was not the same. Without Morris, things were not the same.
No, Morris kept it together.
Well, once Morris, Morris was the glue that the group, right?
Yeah, he was. That's true.
He was a phenomenal musician. He played every instrument.
He's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean,
when you were with the Bee Gees, when you were a Bee Gee, I guess you must have met great artists such as John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and people from Led Zeppelin, I guess the Rolling Stones. Did you ever meet those guys?
I didn't meet a lot of people. I used to go out partying, as we all did in the 60s. Everybody was partying. It was swinging London, and it was on fire. It was fantastic. But so I got to meet a few people there. I got to meet Otis Redding.
Oh, good.
Yeah, well, Otis actually, I don't know the depth of the story, but that to love somebody was written for
him.
For him.
It was written for him in mind in the first place, right?
Beg your pardon?
I mean, To Love Somebody was written with Otis Redding in mind. So the song was intended to be given to him.
Yeah, that's right. Robert Stigwood, our manager, had asked Barry to write a song for Otis Redding. And Otis was coming into town. I'm not really quite sure whether he came to do some shows or whether he was here on business. I can't tell you. I don't know. But I did meet him. I met him at this down at the Speakeasy. Shook his hand, said, "Pleased to meet you. How do you do?" That was it. I also met George Harrison.
You did? Wow.
He was really nice. I met him at Apple Studios, a band I was working with at the time. I was producing it. It was called Ashton, Gardner and Dyke. And Tony Ashton, who's the keyboard player and singer, was very good friends with George. George lived not too far from Tony, where he lived down the country. So they knew each other pretty well. So George had come into Apple that night to do something. I don't know what and the girl upstairs at the reception said, "Oh, Tony's downstairs, Tony Ashton," right? So George came down to say hello, right? So I got to meet George. That was really nice. And let me think. Who else is there? I got to meet very briefly. Colin would be able to tell you much more about it. But both Colin and I met Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix. Jesus Christ.
It was there was a concert in New York. I'm not quite sure where the concert was, whether it was in Central Park or I don't know, but it was in a big open area, right? Park, a huge park. Could have been. I think Jonathan found out, but I can't remember. And I don't know what we were doing there. Maybe we were on the show as well, but I can't remember that. But however, we were backstage, and Colin must have been talking to Jimmy, and he invited us back to his caravan. They all had caravans to change and do their things, And so I got to talk with him for a very short period of time. And later on, he loved the Bee Gees. He loved their harmonies. He thought their harmonies were fantastic. And who else? I met a heap of people. I'm just trying to think. I met Jeff Beck very, very briefly, and he was. It was right at the beginning of when we were starting to play in England. We were doing all these little shows as far as support act for different people, and one of them was Rod Stewart, and I can't think what that band was called, but Jeff was the guitar player.
His band was the Faces.
The Faces. It wasn't the Faces. I don't know what it was. I think it might have been. It might have been the Jeff Beck band. And of course, it wouldn't have been the Faces. I would have remembered that. And Rod was. So that was before the Faces. This one was before the Faces. Yeah. But there are a few other people that to be honest with you, I just can't remember who I did. I met a lot of people. The parties were. Everybody was partying. London was on fire. There was clubs everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And of course, being a success, you'd walk to the door, please come in, come in. Right. You didn't have to show your wallet and your passport and gosh knows what,
Nothing like that.
It was good.
I'm glad for you, man. I'm glad that you were a Bee Gee. You were a great guitarist with the Bee Gees, and now life goes on, and you're still here making music, doing the things that you love doing. I want to thank you very much, Vince Melouney, for being here with me, and I've been looking forward to this this video chat for ages, and at last, finally, it came true. Thank you. I love talking to you, man.
It's my pleasure. Anytime, please just give me a call. I've still got to figure a little bit about Zoom. I'm not really quite sure about it, that I've got it together. But yeah, give me a call, and if I can get in contact with Colin, I'm sure he would love to speak with you.
I will appreciate talking with him. I'm not a journalist. I'm just well, I am a fan. Yes, I'm a music fan, but above all, I am a teacher of English. I teach English for a living.
Right.
I went to university to study languages, and the main language I studied at university was English. So I teach at a university here in Peru, in my city, in Trujillo, the north of Peru.
North of Peru. What is the name of the city? Say it again.
Trujillo. That's spelled Trujillo. Trujillo.
I haven't seen that. Now you say it right, and that's fun. That's in Peru, but
yes, on the northern coast of Peru. We are close to the Pacific Ocean, about a 10-mile ride from where I live. And so I teach English for a living. I've taught English for about 32 years now.
Far out.
I learned English when I was 18, 16, 17, 18, I guess. And then I have never stopped. I'm always learning English words. Well, I can speak English. I can get by. I have passed many international English examinations from Cambridge University, from Michigan University, from the US. And I guess English is my second language, not only a foreign language,
Right.
And I guess you can tell by my accent that I don't sound Peruvian. Maybe I could sound a little bit Peruvian, but I try and speak like a native speaker. Don't know where, but some people say, you speak American English, or you speak British English, or you speak Australian English. I said, no, mate.
There's Australian English too, yeah.
I love Australian English because I've talked to Jeff Bridgeford for about 15 times, and we've done 15 Zoom video chats.
Okay.
I spoke with him last month, and I think I'll be speaking to him early next month in September. Yeah, Jeff is a great man. He's a great friend. He's reserved, very cool, very nice, he's a gentleman.
Yes, yeah.
He speaks well of you. He has good fond memories of the Bee Gees, because after you left the band, or after you stopped being a Bee Gee, that's when where Jeff came in the band, right? After college.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So I have sometimes he teaches me some words from Australian English. Yeah, like wicked. That's wicked.
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 Right.
Oh, that's wicked.
Right.
Yeah, I love your accent, guys. I love Australian English. Australian English is fantastic, you know.
It's really funny when I hear it, because being here in the United Kingdom, I watch a lot of different television shows, and particularly news shows.
Okay.
And so many Australians that are actually journalists and that are hosting the show, you know, or a journalist out in, you know, I don't know, in Africa, in one of the Arab countries somewhere, and they're Australian. You know, g'day, mate. You know, it's sort of it's
I watch British TV as well. I have access to a BBC iPlayer, so I can watch channels from BBC as if I were living in England.
That's really good. How do you do that? Do you have to have a particular aerial?
No. What I do have is the UK VPN, the UK Expat VPN. It's a VPN that is downloaded on my PC. I pay like I pay like $120 for being able to use the VPN for 2 years, consecutive years. And now I watch BBC on my cell phone, on my iPhone, on my TV, on my laptop, on my tablet, 24 hours a day. So I watch all BBC One, BBC Two, BBC Three, BBC Four. I watch the news and all kinds of programs, you know. And I guess it's the same one. I guess you watch BBC, or unless you watch ITV. I don't know which one you watch when you watch your news.
There's heaps of them, you know. There's heaps of news shows all around the world, and on YouTube, there's some really great ones on there if you want to find out what's going on, what's happening. So
it's good to watch the news from England, because the BBC is, I think, is the biggest broadcasting corporation in the world, and I think it's the biggest broadcasting corporation in the universe. BBC is mad, it's crazy, and it's wicked. I love it, you know. I love English. I love your language. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard in England. Like for me, coming from Australia, where Australians are pretty broad, you know, when they talk, mate, they talk. You know, it's really funny how they're but the English people, some of they talk to me and I have no idea what they're saying, none at all, because they have so many different dialects here. They've got dialects. They've got dialect down here. They've got the east, all over the shop. Yeah, and then you've got the Scottish, south and north, and particularly the north. You know, where it's really the dialect is very hard to understand. And when you get into Scotland, I mean, it's practically I have no idea what they're talking about.
But I guess you get used to that accent after a while. After talking to them, you get to understand everything they say.
Yeah, right? They're speaking English already. They're speaking English to me, and I have no idea. That may as well talk to a Frenchman or a German.
Yeah, but the Scots also have another language. I think they have a dialect. The Scots, they use another language.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah, and the Welsh too. The Welsh people.
The Welsh people as well. They do have their language. Yeah.
Yeah, they do have it.
So, once again, Vince, thank you ever so much. Thank you for being here to talk to me. And I'm really looking forward to meeting Colin Peterson one day.
Yeah. Well, hopefully soon. I'd like to speak to him myself. So
If you ever write to him, please let him know that a teacher of English from Peru wishes to meet him and have a chat with him.
I'll do that, sir. Not a
Thank
problem.
you. Well, have a great day. Have a great
Thank
month, the rest of the year, and I wish you all the success you deserve.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and give my regards to the Gigiano brothers, Pasquale,
I will.
Davide, and Walter. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually I'm thinking about going over there just maybe in a couple of weeks' time. Go over, and I always like to go over and spend a few days with them. We always have a laugh and over at Paola. So
Will you still be playing with them?
beg your pardon?
Will you still be playing with them?
I'm going to, it's because of all the upset in the world, because of the pandemic, because of the war in Ukraine, because of the problems with China and the US, so many of these problems. We're supposed to, the Italian Bee Gees are supposed to tour next year. The dates have been booked from the end of April till May. Normally we do about 40 dates, but it's been cut down to 20 because of the restrictions. So I'm hoping to do that tour with them in April, May. And they're really good guys. I really enjoy it. They're always laughing. The whole band, they're always laughing. I have no idea what they're talking about, but they're always having a good time, you know. So it's good to be in their company, and they're very talented people as well.
They are. You got a son. You got a son. What's his name? Because he's a friend of mine on Facebook as well.
Christian is his name.
Christian is one of my Facebook friends.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll speak to him.
Was he born in Australia or in the UK?
In England.
Okay, so he's English.
Yeah.
Or he's both nationalities.
The what? Sorry?
He's got both nationalities, I guess.
Yeah, well, actually, he should. He should have a Swedish passport, a British passport, and he's got a green card for America.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, he needs a couple more, and he can go everywhere.
That's great.
Yeah.
Give him my regards. Give him my regards, and I will want to speak with him as well, just to chat. You know.
I'll tell him.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Vince. Once again, have a great day, man. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, sir.
Hasta la vista. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Goodbye.
bye-bye.
Goodbye,
Ciao.
friend. Ciao.